Hello, hello, hello.
Hey,
Welcome to Women Connected in Wisdom, my friend, my
thank
guest
you.
co-host today. How are
I know.
you?
I'm good. How are you? It's been a minute since I've been on.
Right? It
Yeah.
has. So
Mhm.
welcome to the stage, Cecile Armstrong. You
Thank
want
you
to do
so
our
much.
official intro and then we'll get into chatting because you and I can
Yeah,
chat a lot.
I
Okay,
know.
here we go. Hey, y'all, I'm Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, best-selling author and publisher, and dancing social worker who helps you upgrade your self and community care.
Hey, y'all. I'm Cecile Armstrong. I'm a Black woman entrepreneur, Amazon bestselling author, and a systems coach and virtual assistant for arts and social justice organizations. I am a champion for racial equity, social equity, and self care.
And together with our co-host Shannon, who is out today, we miss you, Shannon. We are a
Hmm.
podcast rooted in the 8 dimensions of wellness. And we get together every week with special guests for intentional conversations about how to be wise in business, relationships, and wellness. How do we do it? And today we're talking about financial wellness. And for episode 216, breaking free from your workaholic career path. So, Cecile, folks that know you as one of our Women Connected in Wisdom, you've written several chapters in our books.
Hmm.
How is this? I thought it was interesting that I called to ask you to be my co host on this one. How's this one landing with you, my friend?
This one is landing like it's very timely considering the shift that I'm making with my business and my work and uh leaning more into focusing on my own business and working less for other folks. So yeah, this feels very timely. I need this.
Right.
And also with the way that I'm scaling back so that I can earn more and do less at the same time.
Right? I have
Yeah,
a feeling our expert guest is going to have some tips for you on that.
I think
And
so.
I know you have a story that just happened from last night, but I think we hold it until we bring her up there,
Okay.
that you were sharing with me earlier. But overall, friend, how are you? Like, how is life?
I
How are you?
I am okay. I'm recovering from the flu, so I might still be coughing a little bit, but I am recovering from the flu. And overall, I'm mixed. It's a
Right?
mix of like the things that are going on in the world feel very heavy. And at the same time, this really does feel like the end of the 9 year, and I can feel myself letting go of a lot of things, and I'm like resting up to like ready to push forward in the spring, and I'm really leaning into, the ebbs and the flows right now.
Right?
Yeah. How about you?
Yeah. Well, I'm grateful.
Mhm,
Because you were one of my co-leaders, but I'm out here in Oakland, California this week working from
mhm.
the Interplace office. We just had the privilege of doing a Secrets of Leading Interplay
Yes, you
event.
did.
And it did not stink that I'm out here in sunny California and Joe is telling me back in Georgia it was 4-degree wind chill.
Mm.
So, sorry, Joe. And all our listeners in the South, because I do know that it should be illegal to have temperatures like that in the South, because we did not sign up for
Mm.
that. But
Mhm.
yeah,
Oh,
I
we were
am.
having freezing temps here in, Newport News on the unceded territory of the Kicquetan, but we were having freezing temps here, but I was sick, so I stayed inside the whole time.
Right. Yeah. I'm so sorry you went through that. I know that this year it's been really big, the flu and COVID and everything. So
Mhm.
I'm glad that you're on the mend and
Thank you.
I'm glad you could be with us today. So how about I kick off this definition and we get this show going?
Let's get it going.
Let's do it. All right, y'all. So today we are talking about financial wellness. And according to Women Connected in Wisdom, our definition, financial wellness is an intentional approach to your relationship with money as a tool. It includes stability with current finances, increasing positive financial behaviors like budgeting, reducing debt, saving, and investing. Financial wellness incorporates knowledge and skills that help to change behavior, reduce financial stress, and a creation of a strategic financial plan to reach your desired financial goals. So, whew,
Ooh, yeah, I
when
was
I
like, I
read
need a
that,
breath on
Cecile,
that.
right?
I need a breath. It all sounds very good, and if money makes you nervous, it can also stir up some body deals.
Right? Well, and that's what we're gonna talk to our expert guests about, because I think money makes a lot of people nervous, right?
Mhm,
I think that it depends on, did you talk about it when you were growing up? Like,
mhm,
what were you told and what were your messages? How do you talk about it now? Where are you currently at? Like, I know I
mhm.
feel really different sometimes depending on my level of stress around
Yeah.
it,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And what's going on in the world too. I
I
know
was
that
going to
that makes a
say,
difference. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's a difference between what's happening in your personal life and your core belief, but then also what's happening in the world influences that. So,
Right.
yeah. So, I would
Well,
like to introduce our guest for today.
let's
Were
do
you
it.
gonna say something?
No, that's what I was gonna say. Let's do it.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, Scarlett Stanhope, aka the Biz Hippie, teaches coaches to conquer their finances and own their worth so they can be fully supported by the work they love. Scarlett harnessed the power of money to break free from her workaholic career path. I need to know about that and pursue
Mhm.
her dreams. She uses a combination of tangible money management strategies as well as a variety of coaching techniques to help her clients transform their mindset and relationship to money, allowing them to strategically achieve their goals and live their best lives.
Let's welcome to the
Welcome,
stage,
Scarlett. Woo
Scarlett.
woo!
Hello. Oh my gosh, I am so excited to be here today. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
You are so welcome, Scarlett. And it was not
Mhm.
intentional, but right when she was reading your bio, I realized I first of all, we have to tell our listeners about the Biz Hippie. And I am wearing the most hippie pants ever. Cecile, I am wearing my blue and white tie-dye bell bottom pants. And
Ah,
Oh my
I
gosh.
love
not
those
that our
pants.
listeners can hear them, but see them, but I just have to know I am with you, sister.
I love this. Thank you. I wish I was wearing more hippie pants today, but I went more for the shirt vibe. So we're
All
balancing it
right.
out.
We're here. We're here for it. So tell us, how did you come up with that name and get into this current work life balance that you're doing? And we always say
Yeah.
that in quotes, but
Yeah, totally. I think
Balance.
like the biz hippie is just the most accurate definition of my own personal journey because when I flash way back, like growing up, I was the type A, high achiever, perfectionist, straight A student type. That was really who I was. And even though on paper that looked really great, I was also the 9-year-old with migraine headaches. So then,
Mm,
flash forward to my young adulthood, I was managing restaurants by the time I was 18. I was getting my bachelor's in business management, accounting, and finance, maintaining my 3.9 GPA, had 30,000 in savings, zero credit card debt, zero student loans, and was just paying for college out of
Wow.
pocket. So, on paper, everything looked really great. And I was very much like biz mode. That was
Mhm.
who I was. I was spreadsheets and data, and I owned more blazers than I did pairs of jeans. But then I hit my own personal burnt out rock bottom. Even though on
Mhm.
paper I was checking all the boxes, I was depressed. I was covered head to toe in eczema. I was in a
Mm.
relationship I had no business being in, and I was burnt out in my workaholic lifestyle. And so I had to really hit the ground hard to realize that instead of waiting for someday for me to hit some magical finish line to discover that I had enough money or I had done enough and checked enough boxes and that I could start living the life I wanted. Instead, I realized that life was already happening, it was already passing me by, and that it was up to me to start living it. And that's when I began my own self discovery journey and saying, okay, well, what do I actually want? What's important to me if I wasn't just chasing money or success? And then a few years after beginning my own personal growth journey, immediately after getting my bachelor's degree, I took a complete 180 and became a life coach and started my life coaching practice. Started saying yes to everything that lit me up, like becoming a yoga instructor, becoming a Reiki practitioner, traveling, attending retreats all over the world,
Mhm.
and just went full on hippie mode. And then starting my business, trying to get that off the ground about a year into my business of floundering about in only woo woo hippie land, I realized that I needed to bring the two together, like bring back my business strategic part of me and also hold the mindset woo life coach part of me, and then especially in helping other people to live their best, most aligned lives, especially around money. We need to have the tangible and the strategic and the grounded aspects in order to actually create the fulfilling vision that we desire. And so that's where the Biz Hippie comes from, is balancing both these sides of myself and also balancing both these aspects when it comes to helping my clients live their most abundant lives.
I love that.
Yes. Yes, yes,
As you
yes.
were saying that, Scarlett, I was really getting a picture of a tree, like that you are rooted and grounded, but you have all these branches for the woo-woo stuff too. So
Oh,
I love
I
that.
love that. The tree is like my I talk about trees all the time. It's also one of the biggest symbols in my business. And just to go on a really fun tangent, when I work with my clients, I like mail them things, and I love to upgrade the packages that I mail them. And so my recent upgrade was I have these custom cards, and one of them is like a baby tree sapling, and then at the end of the program it's a full grown tree, and I got like a wax seal with a green like hand holding a tree. So I love that you said the tree because it's a huge part of my
Oh,
branding.
Mm,
right?
that
I
is
love
amazing.
that. So very cool. I mean, I know we're talking about financial wellness, but we also talk about occupational wellness. And I just want
Mhm.
to say how well you defined yourself, that I
Mhm.
instantly had the vision of a tree, and that is your branding without me even knowing it. Because y'all, I did not know that. I did not know that. It just
So
came to me
cool.
as you spoke the words. So that is well done. Well
I'm
done.
I'm noticing, how well her story fits with the Women Connected in Wisdom community about being the workaholic and you gotta get straight A's and you gotta do all the right things, and then asking the question like, "Wait, what am I living for?"
Right?
Mhm,
Right?
mhm,
Totally.
And so how did Scarlett, like, I heard a very clear break that you had from the workaholic career path. And I heard what happens with a lot of folks is it is like we make these big declarations, or we make this big I can't do it anymore. Um and you have to have some practical behind you because
mhm.
the electric company won't take our hugs.
Seashells.
And I wish that seashells I wish they would, right? I wish they would. So when you're working with your
Yeah.
clients, like how when well, let's just talk about when you work with your clients. Where do you start?
Yeah, and I think this is really important because often there is a conflict between the ideas that we can do the work that we love or live lives that we love and have money and support ourselves financially. And it feels like those two things are always separated. But I am a strong believer that we actually can have both. We can do what we love and live lives that we love and support ourselves financially. But it does require a certain set of steps and a certain process to get to that point. And it's also an ever unfolding process. So when it comes to working with my clients, the first thing that we do is actually look at your internal relationship with money. These are the
Mm,
thoughts, the beliefs, the stories that you have around money. And most of us have what I like to call scarcity seeds. In
mm,
fact, we all have
mm,
scarcity seeds. We just grew up with them. We adopted them from our parents, and they're just so prevalent in society. But
mhm,
we take these scarcity seeds, we just accept them as truth. And then our subconscious brain, as we're growing up in this world, builds a scarce based money story on top of those scarcity seeds. And that then impacts the lives that we live. And these are the same stories and narratives that can keep us trapped in unfulfilling jobs for years, even when it's
oof,
draining us and burning us out. They're the same stories and narratives that when we try to create a business, we feel scared to take people's money and we're not confident in our price point and we
mm,
can't really sell ourselves. And those are just a few examples. This ties into our safety, our self worth. It bleeds into all areas of life. So, the
oof,
very first thing that I do with my clients is unwind. What's your current relationship with money? What are your belief systems? What's the stories that you're literally living your life from and making decisions and choices from? And instead of just like accepting them as truth, how can we start to question these beliefs and
mm.
actually unwind these old stories and narratives that are actually not that accurate?
I
right?
love the idea of questioning. We talk a lot about approaching things with curiosity. And so I love the idea of questioning instead of saying, you're wrong. It doesn't have to be that way. But just saying, hey, what are these stories? And is it true? I love that idea.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it too is that a lot of these stories can have an emotional charge to them, and therefore they can be very deeply rooted. And these
Hmm.
could be like big traumatic things that happened in your childhood, or they can be small things. So, for example, some of my clients, they grew up well off, their family had a business, and then the business went under, and it was a very dramatic shift for them to start living in poverty. Or another example is like being the middle school girl who can't afford the name brand shoes and is made fun of as a
Hmm.
result. So those little moments in time, they hold an energetic charge to them. So simply telling your brain as an adult after living this way for so many years, like, oh, don't think that way. Just think positive. Don't
Mhm,
spend money like you do. Like change it, and just expecting it to magically work and feeling frustrated when everything ends up the same is because we're not digging out the roots of what instilled these beliefs and
Hmm.
therefore these financial patterns in the first place. So that's where I actually use very specific techniques to uncover the moments where these stories were implanted and give real perspective to them, where we're calming the nervous system. We're able to look at them in a way that you often don't look at when you're just living your day-to-day lives, and that's really what
Hmm.
can start to unwind this. And it's very different than just saying like, "Oh, well, do things differently and things will be better."
Hmm.
right? Oh, that is so true. I know where a lot of mine came from, and usually I'm pretty good with them, but sometimes they sneak up, right? Like, because they're so, I grew up, my generation, Scarlett, is both my grandparents, sets of grandparents went through the Great Depression. So, going through that and then their scarcity mindsets, which are, epigenetic and the
Hmm.
way we lived and where, usually I am very I know I'm not in that place. I'm not, but there it is very interesting to notice when things can trigger that within me, where I hear their
Hmm.
voices or I hear their fear and I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 wait. That's not where we're living right now."
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to start here with this like internal work, because the way that I like to describe it when I'm talking about this with my clients is it's like you have this like a yard. You go out to your yard, it's covered in grass or maybe weeds, and you want to plant a vegetable garden. So you go out to your yard and you just take a bunch of carrot seeds and you start chucking it at your lawn. And you're hoping that those carrot seeds are going to take and you're going to like grow a beautiful flourishing garden. Like that's kind of how we treat abundance and manifestation. We're like, I'm just going to say a bunch of affirmations, I'm going to try a bunch of new habits, and that's like
Hmm.
throwing carrot seeds at your lawn. But what you actually need to do is, and like maybe if you keep doing that over many and many years, eventually you'll get some carrot plants, but that's
Oh,
the slow
good. It's
approach.
coming. It's coming. Sorry.
Eventually. But basically what you have to do is go out there and like rip out the weeds,
Yep.
pull
Hmm.
out the stuff that you don't want in that garden. You got to till the soil and then you have to plant the seeds. So really
Hmm.
the
Right.
first step is recognizing like what's already growing in your garden, and we need to pull out anything that's not in alignment with the life you want to be living
Yeah.
first, so we can till the soil for the seeds that you actually want to be planting.
Ooh, I'm
I
hearing
love
that.
that.
I hear that. Yeah. I'm thinking about some of the stories that I have. And I remember growing up, um, my parents used to say to me and my brother, y'all have everything a poor kid could want, you know,
Mm.
and that, I mean, the message of that, yeah, you have all your needs, your needs met, but why are you asking for more? You know?
Yeah, and I
Hmm.
think, like, it's kind of like, what's even the energy of that, especially as a kid? Like, how do you feel when you hear that?
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Hmm.
Well, and I was thinking about the story you told me last night, with your uncle, Cecile. Do you wanna share that story?
Which story? Oh, the miscommunication?
No, the working hard.
I talked to 2 uncles last night. Yeah.
Okay.
I called my uncle, to tell him happy birthday last night, and he was asking me about my business, and I was telling him about the shift that I'm making, from doing, forward-facing social justice training to, being a, strategic virtual assistant because I do like to organize, and so I'm wanna work with, well, no, I'm going to work with, uh arts and social justice organizations, but on the back end, so they can do what makes them happy, and I can be happy setting up their Google Workspaces and stuff. And he was like, "Oh, I love that. I love that. This is so great that you're going to pivot." And he goes, "And you really got to work hard to get that money. You got to work hard for it, and then it'll come." And I was like, "No, no, 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 no." I was like, "I am making space for money to flow to me easily and effortlessly." Who sings that song, Christine?
Oh, Karen Drucker.
Karen Drucker,
I
yeah.
love me
And
some
so
Karen Drucker.
yeah, and so that's what I was thinking of. I said, "No, I am clearing the space for the money to flow to me. I am not working hard for this. I'm gonna do what I like, and the money is gonna flow, and it's gonna go to support, all these organizations that I wanna support." And he was like, "Huh." Like he had never thought about that because he really just paused and was like, "Huh." And then he goes, "Okay, I hear that."
Totally. Oh, I love that. And I think it's like so common, these stories of like you have to work hard or money doesn't grow on trees, etc., where we
Mhm,
just accept it as truth. But I love to look at nature as an example. I'm like, this whole idea of scarcity and not enoughness is a human concept. But if we look at nature, nature is infinitely abundant. And going
yep,
back to the tree example, something that I say to my clients all the time is a tree is always taking in carbon dioxide. You
yep,
would never like shame the tree or guilt the tree for taking in too much or be like, tree, you're not good enough. You're not shaped right to like accept this level of carbon dioxide. But it's just like the tree being the tree. And as a result of the tree being the tree, it's pumping out oxygen for us
mm,
to breathe. So it's actually part of the vital cycle that it just keeps growing. And we see this for everything. If you have one potato, instead of eating that potato, if you plant that potato, it's going to grow like a whole batch of potatoes. Like you have the infinite potential of abundance with just one seed, and it's just like constantly flowing. So the more that we tap back into who we truly are, which is a
mm.
part of nature, like abundance is really just our default way of being. We just had a societal pattern on top of it that tries to tell us that that's not true.
Oh, I love that.
Well, we've
Abundance
had
is
a
our
very
default. Mm,
Right? We've had a very white patriarchal society to tell us that, this is the way it has to be. And I love that you're referencing nature, Scarlett, because that
mhm,
is accessing the feminine. It's accessing
mm,
what, those of us that are connected to the earth know is
mm,
that,
Mhm.
there we can do this in seasons. Like I always say that because yeah, I'm a doer. I was raised to be a doer. I'm like, so when you say workaholic, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's me." Um, and I get joy out of it, but there are times, but I don't do it because I'm thinking, "Oh, I have to produce this or I have to do that." Like, I
Mm.
I have that knowing in my body that, flowers don't bloom 365 days a year, that
mm,
there are seasons and there are times, and my dad was a farmer and my grandparents were, small-time farmers in Texas, and so really growing up with those cycles and that the knowing, and I love your language of the tilling and the prepping
mhm.
and you know and I've rebelled against some of that, so I also sometimes do throw carrot seeds just wishing that I didn't. I mean, I think that's human nature, but
Mhm,
Totally.
yeah,
Totally. And some things that I like are coming to mind as you share that is like sometimes we have the thought that the solution to living a more abundant life or having more money or getting out of our money stress is that we need to work harder or work more
mm,
or do more and that that's going to be the solution. But the problem is it's not about like the amount of money you have, it's about your relationship with
mhm,
money. And it's
Mhm.
about I like to describe it as energetic math. It's the output, the energy behind your actions that you take in your life, that determines your results. So if you're spending time, energy, or money from a place of scarcity, fear, and not enoughness, the
mhm,
actions are just going to amplify that and bring you more of that. So if you're
Right.
working very hard, but from a place of fear and lack and not
mhm,
enoughness, you're just creating more
Right.
fear and lack and not enoughness
mhm,
versus you can literally take the same exact actions. And when I say actions, I mean spend time, energy, or money. But if that is coming from a place of safety and enoughness and alignment,
mhm,
you're going to create more of that. And I think that's a huge part of living an abundant life is trusting that process. And it doesn't always manifest immediately. So it can be scary or intimidating, going back
mhm,
to what you said with the cycles, to be putting energy out, even from an abundant place, but not seeing the returns on those investments right away. And that's often when we can slip out of our abundance and into fear. So it's really a practice of maintaining that safety and that abundance so we can keep taking action from an aligned and abundant place until we do have those flowers blooming and we actually can reap the harvest of the seeds that we've been planting.
Oh, I love that.
Yes, yes, yes.
I do think
Ooh.
sometimes in our current culture that, as an entrepreneur myself and having a couple of businesses, like, some of the seeds I plant take 5 years to bloom. Like, I mean, it's not, that's not, I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just a realistic thing. And some bloom immediately, right? Some I will see results of the minute I put something out. And some are relationship building and it's 3, 4, 5 years down the road.
Mhm.
And so I think that that's a thing that needs to be said sometimes is and not as limiting, not as like, because sometimes I'll say things like that and people will be like, oh, don't put limits on yourself. And I'm like, oh, I'm not. If it wants to come true sooner, by all means.
Mhm.
And in my experience, I have seen that, it's human nature sometimes that, somebody's got to get to know you. They've got to know your work. They've got to walk alongside you or collaborate with you or, so I think that I don't know where I'm going with this wild tangent, just rambling. So y'all interrupt me.
I actually need to step away from the camera for just a minute,
Okay.
and I will be right back.
No worries. Thanks
Okay.
for
Yeah.
letting us know. So,
Mhm.
Scarlett, when you are working with your clients and somebody's struggling with the fear and scarcity mindset,
Mm.
how to shift somebody out of that?
Yeah, and I think this is an important question because this is common. Like so many of us deal with this. And even, it happens to me too as a money coach and especially as an entrepreneur. So sometimes even I slip into that fearful place. And so, how can we quickly get out of it and move through those emotions and fears so that we can come back into a place of abundance to make sure we're living our lives in an abundant way and continuing to take action in an abundant way? And I think there's two components to this, and it's different depending on where you're at in your journey. So, one is more of this internal work of learning to see what's coming up. What's the story? What are you making your current situation mean about you? How might that be fueled by an old story where you're not just reacting to this present situation, you're actually like piling on a narrative that you have been crafting in your mind and living for many, many years. And so, how can we bring awareness to that, clarity to that, emotional regulation to that, and really like look at the present situation from an objective place and get our body calm? So, I think that is one piece of this equation. The other piece, and this is something we haven't really talked about yet, but I think it's as equally as important as all of this internal work, is the tangible work of learning to manage, track, and see your money clearly. Because a lot of money stress actually comes from not having a clear and accurate picture of how much money you have or where it's going and not knowing what is happening with your finances. That makes money feel out of your control and therefore it makes life feel out of your control. You don't know like what's going to happen to your bank account in the next weeks or several months. You don't know like exactly how you're going to pull it off or pay your bills. It just feels like up in the air and it's a big cloud. And when you don't have an accurate picture of what's happening with your money, that's when your brain fills in all the blanks with the old stories, with all the narratives. And often we are catastrophizing or just creating a story that is inaccurate to reality. So, learning to see your money very clearly and very objectively and see exactly what's going on with it, exactly how much you actually have, which is different than the amount of money in your bank account, and being able to feel safe and regulated with reality of your financial situation. And maybe you look at the numbers and they're still like not great and you're actually in a stressful financial place. But now, because you can see it clearly, you can do something about it. You can't solve a problem you can't see. You just keep spinning in the uncertainty of it. But once you can see the problem and you can feel safe and grounded and trust yourself to handle it and move forward, that's when you can create a game plan and a strategy to deal with it. And that feels very empowering and can take you out of money stress actually very quickly.
Oh, I love that. Hey, y'all, this is a great place to take a break, take a deep breath, and hear from our awesome sponsors that make Women Connected in Wisdom podcast possible. Shannon, we are so grateful that Shayla Glow is the sponsor of the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. And I wanted to take this moment to ask you, when you think about the people who use Shayla Glow, who are we talking about?
That's a good question. I think about three groups really. One, the group that's removing hair, right? So whether you're using laser hair removal, waxing, shaving, you got to make sure that you're putting back what you're taking out. The second group, I think about those with dry skin and the problems that might cause, right? The scars, itching, burning, whatever the situation is, you definitely need all three steps, right? The exfoliation, making sure you're taking the dead skin cells off, the oil, putting in the moisture, and then the shea butter with the aloe, sealing it, helping you heal. Those things help both groups, right? And third, for the third group is those with chronic illness. You know, the story is personally from cancer and different diseases that our population is dealing with on a daily basis throughout families as individuals. So I'm thinking about my mom and my grandmother and those around me with the same generational ties, right? And what positive, healthy habits we can start to make sure that we're maintaining our wellness, especially because the skin is like the cape, the exterior, the shield for your immune system. So with COVID, we have to be intentional about covering ourselves. And those are the groups I think about.
I love it. And you know what else I love about your product? It's all natural, handmade, and it smells great, y'all. So,
yes, esthetician
yay.
tested. Yes, esthetician tested and approved. Yes. What about you? When you think about your company, what groups of people do you think about?
Well, you know, I work with individual coaching clients. I work in community classes and with corporate teams. And with all of them, I use a strength-based, embodied approach to help folks connect with themselves and access joy, reduce burnout, and build resilience. You know, especially during these times, I think we need it. I think we need all the hashtag partnership power we can get.
Yes.
I love that. Now, I have a question. Do you just mainly work with individuals, or do you sometimes work with couples or organizations?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I do primarily work with individuals, but often these individuals have partners or like husbands, and they work together on the finances as well. I have worked with a few couples, and that's always fun because your relationship with money is so deep. I love to say it's one of the deepest levels of personal growth and development. So it bleeds into everything. It bleeds into your survival, it bleeds into your safety, it bleeds into your self-worth. So it also bleeds into your relationships big time. You know, money is the number one cause of divorce. And it's very interesting to see the parallels between our businesses, our money, and our romantic lives and our relationships as well. So when you do this healing around money, it affects your relationships in more ways than one. So that is a powerful way to do this work, and especially on the business side as well, this has a huge impact on your business. So like, yes, the short answer is yes, I've done this work too, more than individuals, but even when I do it with individuals, it ripples out into these other contexts as well.
Oh, I can only imagine because I think about I've been married for 32 years and we have very different philosophies about money. And I've done a lot of work around mine and my mindset and where I am. And it was really resonating with me when you said that about know your numbers, know where you are, and that your worth doesn't just equal what's in your bank account. And you know, we've had back and forth conversations about this because we grew up very differently. Like I had a lower middle class to middle class. You know, my parents were public school teachers, so I always knew where my next meal was coming from, where I was putting my head at night. And my husband grew up very differently with a much more severe poverty and not feeling that safety net. And so it does make a difference on how we approach money or even our conversations about money. And I always I'm trying to shift this because I get in trouble. Because sometimes, I will be like, "Hey, you know, we're going over budget, like, we just need to slow our spending or not spend any money." Like, I like to go a couple of days without spending money or a week, And if I say those words, like he's immediately got us living in a tent in a state park somewhere, right? Which
Yeah.
it's funny, not funny, but it is a different, and we've done a lot of work around that together as a couple just to realize like, take a deep breath. It's okay. It's, we are fine. We're better than fine, but it is some of those stories are so deep, right?
Mm,
And they live with you your whole life, especially if you've had trauma around it. And
yeah.
so I love how you were talking earlier about digging up the roots, about really knowing where it comes from and being present and knowing your numbers. Because that was the strategy we really worked. Because I'm trained as a clinical social worker and was trained as a therapist. So, I always was going to the emotional. And then what I realized is,
Mm.
oh, if I can just show him the numbers and be like, hey, this is what's going this is why I'm saying it, like, it
Right.
it
Yeah.
was yeah, I mean, sometimes it's the practical, right? And I go back to your intro about being a practical rooted woo-woo.
Totally. Well, you do need both because the mindset affects the money, but then the money also affects the mindset and it goes hand in hand. And especially when you're in a relationship as well and you're combining your finances, like that's a deep conversation. And especially when you have different relationships with money, like finding that common ground and that middle ground, it's a lot easier to do when you're at least starting with the same clear information and then you're making decisions about it. But it is really interesting how even when we can be faced with reality and we can see that things are okay or things are good, or even when we make more and more money, we can still feel the same money stress and we can still play out the same patterns and we can still be living in the same fear because, again, it's not about the amount of money that you have, it's about your relationship to that money. And so, like, yes, you need both, but often when you do the tangible work of managing the money, it's going to bring up any other gunk that's under the surface. Because how this could show up is, for example, if you don't feel safe holding a lot of money for various reasons, like maybe you were taught that, money makes people fight because your parents fought about money. So therefore, money is evil and bad. So when it comes to your business, either you're going to block sales or repel money from coming in, or maybe you do make money and you reach larger and larger amounts of revenue, but then you spend it just as fast as it came in. And it's like we can look at the numbers and know I need to spend less. I need to spend less. I should stop spending. But no matter how hard we try or what we do, we just keep doing the same habits and patterns over and over again. And that goes back to the money story that we need to address at the core.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I love that you heard that too, right? That if you so, we've had a lot of different people on here for financial wellness and different things. I don't think I've ever had a financial coach talk to us about the fear of holding money. Will you
Oh,
say a little bit more about that?
yeah, I think it's super common. So that's really funny that no one has talked about this before. And I guess the way that I would love to talk about this is we have conscious desires, right? All of us desire certain things consciously, and there are things that are very like acceptable and common to desire. So for example, having more and more money. That's a very common desire. We all are trained to believe that we should desire more and more money, and so consciously, whether that's in a career or in your business, you can want more money and you can work really hard towards making more money and you can put in a lot of effort and you can put in a lot of action towards that. But subconsciously, it could be a completely different story. So, another thing that I work with my clients on is uncovering different parts of ourselves and really seeing the different parts of ourselves have different belief systems, different motivations, and some selves we may be very aware of and very conscious of, and other selves we might have no awareness of. So, for example, in the personal growth world, like inner child gets thrown around a lot. That's a very common part, but there are hundreds of different parts of us. So you could be consciously working very hard towards making a lot of money, taking a lot of action towards making a lot of money, doing all the right things, getting the raise, getting the promotion, getting lots of sales. And consciously, you'll be making progress towards the thing that you want. But subconsciously, If you have a story and a narrative that is somehow rooted in money, having a lot of money, being unsafe for some reason or another, and this could show up in a variety of ways, maybe like money makes people fight. If I have too much money, then my friends or family will reject me or not like me. Being poor makes me a humble, good person, right? Those are just a few examples of what this could look like. But if you have any version of this and it's unaddressed, it doesn't matter how hard you work. It doesn't matter how much money you make. That subconscious self is going to rise up from the depths of your subconscious mind, and it is going to sabotage you one way or another. And sometimes it might feel completely out of control. Like, how did that happen? It's just like every time I make a lot of money, something goes wrong and I have a huge expense, or my car breaks down and I can just never get ahead. Or it could show up in other ways, like you just go on massive spending sprees and suddenly all the money is gone. And so we have to really start to look at the subconscious parts of us and those beliefs, and not just focus on like the primary parts of us and the conscious parts of us, because we're going to self-sabotage one way or another if we have anything under the surface that's not being addressed.
Ah, thank you. Yeah, I
Wow.
mean, we've had people talk about that, but it's very interesting the way I'm hearing you say it. Because often, welcome back, Cecile. Often
Thank you.
people, talk about the blocks to making the money. But what I heard you say that I've never heard anybody say is about holding the money. That
Mm,
you may
Yeah.
have cleared your blocks about making the money, and you may be doing well with that. But if you haven't cleared your blocks about having like being allowed to have it, that's like another layer of this
Oh,
of
yeah.
your relationship,
mm,
which is
yeah,
fascinating to me.
that is. I'm just thinking so many facets to this. Ugh, it's not just one thing.
No,
Right.
no.
Mhm,
And it can show up totally different for different people too, and the stories and the reasonings. But I guess like the simplest term is, if you're not where you want to be, or if you don't feel the way that you want to feel with your money, there's a reason. There's a reason why
mhm,
that's happening. And I also believe that we can be in control of that. I believe like we're the creators of our reality, and there's some sort of internal process that is creating this result. Like,
mhm,
this result of this life you're living is your comfort zone for some reason. Even if you consciously want something else, or you're working hard towards something else, but you keep ending up in the same place, there's a reason why, and that we can change that to therefore expand your comfort zone to hold a bigger result of
Oh,
what
I
you
love
actually
that.
okay, you're
desire.
speaking my language now about expanding your comfort zone.
That's all part of it. Expand the
Uh-huh.
financial comfort zone.
Right? It's true.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it's Cecile, I kinda want you to speak to that for just a minute
Okay.
about yeah, speak
Yeah, I
to that
wanted
for
to,
just
but
a
I
minute.
didn't want I didn't
No,
wanna
go
just
ahead.
jump right
Jump in
in.
there.
Yeah, one of the things that I share, in the beginning of my workshops as part of the everyday activism habit, my motto is "No blame, no shame, no guilt," because those emotions get in the way of making progress. They keep you stuck where you are, they keep the status quo. But then the second part that I go on to talk about is about, getting out of your comfort zone, because your comfort zone is, like, right here. You can walk around in the dark in your comfort zone because you know where everything is. But if you expand that a little bit and get into the learning zone, then, that's the place where everything's not exactly the same. You have to kind of pay attention, but it's just enough to make you uncomfortable to like pay attention and learn the new pathways. And if you get beyond that, then you get into the danger zone where, you're freaked out, you can't take in anything new, you feel like you're going to be attacked, you go into protection mode or defensive mode or whatever. And so when I'm teaching folks about racial equity or disability equity or whatever kind of equity, I'm always like, get out of your comfort zone and into the learning zone. And then the other thing that I share about that is that the people, whatever the dominant society is, they spend a lot of time in the comfort zone. And the people who are not in the dominant society spend a lot of time in the danger zone. And so the more the folks in the dominant society can get into the learning zone, that allows those people who spend time in the danger zone to spend more time in the comfort zone. And so, it's just about like taking responsibility for learning more and being able to hold space for not only yourself, but being responsible to other people in society. So yeah, the thing about stretching your comfort zone and getting into that learning zone is so important.
I love the way that you described that. And I think what's so powerful about it is that this applies to every area of your life and every facet of your life. And one of the biggest reasons why I love coaching around money is because I feel like doing this work of expanding your relationship with money is like boss level personal growth and development because it bleeds into everything. It bleeds
really
into
does.
every area of our life, our deepest like shames and guilts and not being enough and not being worthy and deserving, and like our foundational survival mechanisms, like the parts of us that are going to scream and scratch and claw to keep us in that comfort zone. Like all of that ties to money. So it's like taking everything that you just described, and it's like the version for people who are ready to take it to the next level. Like to me, that's my definition of the money work.
Okay. Yeah, I love that.
I love that. And Scarlett, you were telling us for folks that will be watching this later, or that are now listening, I want to be sure and give this a shout out because you were telling us about a quiz that you have for our listeners. Will you tell them about this?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So this actually ties in perfectly to what we were talking about earlier, which is bringing awareness to your relationship with money. And that's really the first step because you have to start to see clearly and uncover what is your current relationship with money so you can start to shift it. It's like learning to see what is actually in your garden so that you can pull out what doesn't align and start to till that soil. And so the best next step that you can take to bring awareness to your relationship with money is take my free quiz to discover your money mindset type. Because there's actually a few different money mindset types. People are starting from different places, and not all paths to abundance are the same. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why you can take action and follow advice and try to create abundance, but it just keeps you ending up back in the same place over and over again. And it's because for different mindset types, it's different starting points, and you actually need to take different action. So when you take my quiz on my website, not only will you discover your money mindset type, you'll also discover your specific strengths, your challenges, and the next best step for you to step closer to abundance based on your current relationship with money. And it's super fun and super easy and super quick. So if you want to take that next step to transform your relationship with money by bringing awareness to your current relationship with money, you can take the quiz on my website, thebizhippie.com/quiz.
Okay. And then we have, I'm showing a /activate. Is that changed?
That has changed, but because it's here, we can yes, I would say the quiz is really go to the /quiz.
Okay.
But if you just go to the website, the Biz Hippie, you're going to find it one way or another.
Okay, perfect. Perfect, perfect. And will you tell our listeners, like, what are the different money mindsets?
Okay, yeah, sure. We can talk about it. So, the first money mindset type is what I like to call the volatile visionary. This is somebody who often has a resistance to managing, tracking, and looking at the finances. This is more of I deeply trust the universe. It's all going to work out. And this is the type of person who can actually, things will work out. You might have super high highs where you do manifest a lot of money, magical things happen. You have a lot of faith and trust in yourself and in the universe. So you're willing to take big leaps of faith, maybe even some big risks. But on the flip side of that, because you can't really see your money clearly, you can also have really low lows and lots of stress that's festering under the surface that can blow up from time to time. And so your relationship with money can feel like an emotional roller coaster with really high highs and really low lows, where even though you have those highs, you kind of end up right back where you started over and over again. The other money mindset type is called the relentless reacher. This is the type who is a bit more structured or strategic. This is more like the masculine side of money where you're working hard, you're checking boxes, you're doing the work, you're focusing on getting more and more. You're more likely to penny pinch or restrict or budget. You don't spend a lot of money, at least you don't think that you do. And you hope that if you just keep going on this path, someday you'll arrive at a destination where you'll have enough and you can start living the life that you want to live. The problem with this is that often you keep running on this never-ending hustle hamster wheel, and eventually you feel burnt out. And for some reason, even when you do work harder and make more money, it still never feels like you quite have enough. So that's
Mm.
the second money mindset type. And then the third one is the abundant alchemist. And the abundant alchemist is a bit more balanced and has the strengths of both the volatile visionary and the relentless reacher. The abundant alchemist is the type who can see your money very clearly, knows what's happening with your money, and can feel safe and solid in your finances. But you're also able to live the life you want to live without money restricting you. It's where you're able to make choices and create what is important to you with your money, but you're also keeping your numbers in check. You're not just making decisions from your heart and you're not just making decisions from your paycheck, but you're balancing both of those things to actively create and live the life that you want to live. So, those are the three primary mindset types that I love to start with my clients and work on.
Oh my gosh, this is so
Awesome.
fun. Scarlett, I just love your wisdom. And I really like when I listen to you talk, I feel your groundedness. Like I
Mhm.
know that you're coming from a place of wisdom and groundedness. And yeah, thank you. Like,
Yeah.
Cecile, you have any questions before we head towards the
I don't have any
where we're
questions,
headed?
but I do but I do have a couple of comments. I just wanna acknowledge how the way you are speaking about money is landing in my body, and it's landing feeling very solid and grounded, like Christine said, and it's landing as, non-judgmental, and it's,
Mhm.
landing in my body as, this is a skill. This is something that I can learn, and this is something that I can do better. I know I'm one of those people who's like, yeah, I'll focus on money for a little while, and then I'm like, "Oh, it's too hard, it's too hard, it's not enough money," or whatever, and then I'll turn away. But the whole conversation that I've been here for, I have felt like, "Oh, this is teachable, this is learnable, this is a skill," and I'm, feeling on the flip side because the workshop that we did this weekend, I was telling folks that racial equity, social equity, it's a skill, it's something you can learn, and you just need to practice, and I'm very much feeling that from you, and that feels very, comforting.
Mhm.
It feels doable. It doesn't feel like it's like this huge thing that I just can't address and can't face. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the way you described that because that's exactly what it is. It is a practice and it is a skill set. And I also know that anybody can do it, no
Mhm,
matter where you're starting from or what your financial situation is or how you feel about money or how tech savvy you are. Like it is
mhm.
so possible for you to have this aligned relationship with money.
Mm,
Mm, I
yeah.
love that,
Thank you.
Scarlett.
Yeah.
Well, every week we do a wisdom in action. And this is where we ask our guests and each other, what are you doing this week for your financial wellness? And if you can, hashtag it for us. So we'll share it out with our community.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I'm like, what? So wait, can you say it again? What action am I taking this
Sure,
week
right. So
around
what
financial wellness?
wisdom
You
in
Okay.
action are you doing
you
around
want me to go
financial and it
first?
you yeah, Cecile, if you
I'll
want to go
give you
first, you can.
yeah. Hashtag take the quiz. I'm gonna take the quiz.
Right?
That's
I
gonna be
love
my
it.
first thing so I can find out what is my money mindset. I'm gonna take the quiz
Right?
this week.
Ooh, okay, I love that. Okay, mine is thank you. I needed an example. Mine hashtag it's so possible
I love that.
because
Mhm.
it is. Abundance is possible no matter where
It
you're
is
starting from.
so
Yes, I love
possible.
that. It's so possible.
Right? I don't know. What is my wisdom in action this week around financial wellness? I think mine is hashtag be grounded
Mm,
because I do really well when I'm home and in
mhm,
my regular systems. But sometimes when I travel and on the road, I get a little unmoored. And
mhm,
I'm in the Bay Area this week. So I have to be present to my
mhm.
finances. And because it is very easy when you're traveling out here to
Ooh,
go way over budget.
yeah.
And so I think mine is just hashtag be grounded. And
Mhm.
so, and that's in a couple of things, but really around financial wellness too.
Yeah.
Like, I know that, we had a guest one time that talked about, that you don't have to have the scarcity about limiting yourself. You can say, "I am allowed to spend," or "I am going to spend this amount of money." And I realized even as I said that, I haven't really done that for this trip.
Mm.
So I think that's the other thing I'm going to do as my wisdom in action. I'm going to take a little moment to say, what are you allowed to spend while you're out here? Instead of
Mhm.
being worried about it, and say,
Yeah.
what do you get to spend while you're here?
Mhm.
And do that, whether it's $5 or, whatever, $100, whatever I choose to do, and that can be my job then, is to spend that.
If I was out there, I'd be spending at the thrift
I
store. I'd
know,
be
we'd be
finding
going
something to wear.
thrifting. We'd be going thrifting. I did go to the Oakland Museum, and it was fabulous, and I went to the gift store and got you a little something. So,
Aw,
now
thank
you're gonna have to
you.
come visit me because I'm horrible about mailing stuff. So,
I know. I've
that's
got stuff
reality.
that I need to mail you from, like, months ago.
So, Scarlett, anything you wanna give a shout out to our listeners about where they can find you, how they can connect with you if this conversation has really resonated and they wanna explore coaching with you? What do they do?
Absolutely. Well, again, the best step that you can take is take the quiz, and you can do that on my website, thebizhippie.com/quiz. If you want to connect deeper about this work, you can learn more about my signature program, which is called Empowered Abundance. And you can book a free consultation with me where we'll explore what's your current relationship with money? Where do you want to go? What's your vision of abundance, and how can I support you in getting there? And what are the exact steps that you can start taking to bring your next level of abundance into reality? So you can book that consult with me and learn more about the program on my website, thebizhippie.com/abundance.
Oh, very well. And see, I just put up the bizhippie.com/quiz, but it all gets you
It's
there.
all on there. You'll find it. It's on the website.
And if you're listening to us while you're working out or while you're driving, don't worry. You can find us on our website at womenconnectedinwisdom.com, and we will have it in the show notes where you can connect with Scarlett and find out their socials and find out how to connect. And get wise about your money and figure this out. I love it. Well, Scarlett, thank you so much for being with us today. I am so
Yeah.
grateful to be connected to you and just
It was nice
really
to meet you.
appreciate the work that you're doing in the world and how you're
Mhm.
doing it. So
Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you both, and honestly, like, so much fun too. So thank
great.
you.
Oh, you're
Thank
most
you.
welcome. We'll
Thank
be
you.
in touch. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Oh my
Oh
gosh,
my
so
gosh.
fun.
Yes, yes. That was amazing. I love that her image is the tree, because you know about me and trees. You know
I
how
know.
connected I am to
I
the
know,
trees.
right?
And that and then, just like, "Oh, this is a skill."
Right?
Those 2 things just really landed for me. Yeah.
Absolutely, me too. And
Mhm.
I always learn something new every time we have a guest. But
Mhm.
really, I'm going to take the quiz too.
Mhm.
Who do you think you are out of those three? Like, let's predict, because I'm thinking I'm probably the volatile visionary.
I think you are too, and I think I'm probably the relentless reacher.
Okay, okay, and we're striving for the what are we
Abundant
striving for?
alchemist.
Abundant alchemist. Okay, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, we got to write that down somewhere.
Yeah.
It's good to be known. It's good
Oh,
to know
yeah.
ourselves, and it's good to be known. So we'll report back after we take that quiz and figure out
Right.
what we're doing here. So,
Mhm.
well, my
Yeah.
friend, thank you so much for joining me today as our guest co-host. Is there anything
Yeah.
that you want to shout out to our audience about your work and how
I
to
do.
find you and how to connect with you?
Yeah, I do. I have been off of my socials for the longest, long enough that I am, like, locked out of most of them. So I'm still trying to get back in,
You got
but
this.
I am back on LinkedIn now, and I'm back on Instagram, but there's an IG at the end of my @ and, I just wanted to, bring awareness to the fact that I'm doing a little bit of a pivot, with my everyday activism habit, and, serving, arts and social justice organizations. I mean, there's so many out there that are doing so much good work, and I know how artists and people who are, like, ready to be out in the streets do not like to sit down and do that computer work and figure out what their contracts are gonna look like and how to set up their files so they can find everything, and being the Virgo that I am, I love
Claim it. Name it
organizing.
and claim it.
That's right. I love organizing. And so I'm doing a little bit of a pivot from doing the individual one-on-one stuff with the membership to start working with some art and social justice organizations. Let me be your virtual assistant. Let me be your strategic assistant. Set you up in the background for success so that you can go out and do the things you love to do. Do the things that are in your sweet
Love
spot.
that. I
Yeah.
love that. Doing some
Mhm.
organizational consulting and,
Yeah.
I have worked with you as a colleague and behind the scenes, and I can tell everybody you are dynamite at this. Like,
Thank
you
you.
are an incredible shaper, and you make it simple for people in organizations that it might not be their first, it might be something that they're avoiding or I even think
Mhm.
about with this guest and financial systems, like, you can set up back end
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
like nobody's business. So
Oh, thank
I
you.
am
Yeah, I love to
excited
do
for
it.
you, and I'm excited that, you're listening to your body and knowing what you need in this moment, and that
Yeah.
it's okay to pivot. I love that.
Yeah,
So,
well, I know, I've got body deals, and I know I can't be out there, marching and in the street, and I don't have the emotional capacity to do some of the front-facing stuff that I was doing, but this way, I can still, help the
make a
people who are
big
out there doing it.
difference.
Yeah. I mean, if
Yeah.
I can help an organization be sustainable and,
Yep.
get their stuff together so they can work smarter and not harder, then let me do that.
Well, and not
Yeah.
just that, I think I know you're still gonna be doing some of the individual stuff, but it makes it,
Well,
like, where
yeah.
you're helping thousands and beyond, so that's
Mhm.
really exciting. So,
Yeah, thank
I'm so
you.
glad you
Thank
were here to
you.
show
Aw.
us and to talk with us and to be your awesome self. So,
Aw,
all
thank you
right,
for inviting me.
absolutely. You are definitely one
Yeah,
of our women connected in wisdom. Well, y'all, we
I
are going
am
to
connected.
close show episode 216.
Can't believe it's
Shannon,
been
we
that
hope you
many.
feel better and we see
Feel
you
better,
next week.
Shannon.
And in the meantime, y'all, be well,
Be
be
well,
wise,
be wise, be whole.
be whole.
Thanks for listening. This has been the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. On air live on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern via Facebook and YouTube. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Be part of the conversation and get connected at womenconnectedinwisdom.com.